is kind of bit of the voice I'm used to, really.
Racing's actually quite popular in Finland and has been ever since Hackman started winning.
Oh, a lot longer.
And a lot longer before that. But I've heard that at the minute, with Raikkonen and Bottas, it's actually the second most viewed sport in Finland. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, actually, it used to be. Well, it's now on a pay channel, so it's a little bit less viewed. Yeah, it's been for 10 years about now, so, Sky Sports for me. Anyway, back when it was on a free channel, on the heyday of Matti Kyllönen.
Hold on, Tapper's losing it. Tapper's spinning. He's in the wall. Big crash. Tapper in the barrier.
Wow.
Oh dear, that's down at Indianapolis. So Dawie Tapper in the ACR Zaxby car. I was watching it with interest because it did appear to be pushing. And then as it went through Indianapolis, the rear end just came around. The car lost control. He got on the grass. There was no stopping it. And into the wall went Dawie Tapper. He's got the car going again, but he's creeping it round. Slower than the GT cars at the minute. He's going to be having a lengthy pit stop time here. And that's terrible news for Dawie Tapper, who stuffed it in the wall. And now I believe we're going to transition over to the next part of the live stream very, very shortly. But for now, Dawie Tapper just coasting it back to the pit lane. He's in the wall again. He's in the wall again on the run back to the pits because he's got such little control over this car. He really needs to back off the pace now if he's going to make it back to the pits. What a terrible situation.
Porsche curves.
And there is also an announcement from the race control: slow car in Porsche curves, and that is of course Dawie Tapper, and he's just creeping back into the pits. That's gonna be so terrible, not only for Dawie Tapper but the entire ACR Zaxby team. They were running P6, they were doing quite well for themselves, potentially within a shout for the top 5. And as we move on to closer and closer to the transition, we have the Tapper situation, and we also have the Diakovic Parkway situation to monitor.
So into the pits now comes Dawie Tapper. He's on the pit entrance, dipping 2 wheels into the gravel, as we've seen quite a few cars doing. And I tell you what, this pit entrance is going to be a nightmare for him with a car this damaged, and he takes no chance and actually cuts that corner in the pits. I don't blame him there. But this car, I'm afraid, is going to be in the pits for a very, very long time after all of that damage. Of course, we saw a lengthy pit stop for the Atlantic Motorsport Ferrari earlier. That didn't end up losing a position, although it did end up on the same lap as the Satellite Racing Ferrari behind. As in the pits now are Maximilian Scheider and Tongo Gardia from the LMP2 class. But Dawie Tapper in the pits now, and I'm going to hand over now completely the commentary booth to Chris Buxton, and possibly, well, I'm going to leave it with Ocean Puhaka for now, but I believe we're about to get Joshua Anderson joining in as well. I need to go for breakfast, so that was an enjoyable stint, and I will see you all later. Thanks for Ocean Puhaka and Rhys Gardner earlier for joining me during the stint.
Yeah, thank you. It was wonderful to have you here, Joshua, as well. And I will be staying here for the time being with Chris Buxton. A little bit unplanned, perhaps, but I think, Chris, we have a bit of a transformation right now going on.
Indeed. I'm just sort of looking through the names as well, and there were quite a few of these names that were in their respective cars when I was broadcasting at the 3-hour mark. So these guys must be absolutely shattered by now.
Yep, they must be absolutely wrecked. But right now we'll be moving on to the second part, from the fourth part rather, from the third part to the fourth part, and we'll be doing that right now. So, well, we'll see you guys soon, I think.
And we're off. I'm just gonna restart everything. It's gonna take like 2 hours.
Okie dokie.
Hey, we're gonna get a Dennis Lind interview with the opening the fourth part.
Oh, great.
Okay, cool.
Chris, should you take him? He needs 3 minutes. 3.
And do we want to speak to Dennis when the stream's back up, or whilst the stream is down?
When it's back up, he needs 3 minutes.
Okie dokie. What happened to the P1 Nissan? Because that was leading quite comfortably when I disappeared last night.
Which car was it?
The one that
GNS.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they had a crash and a lot of penalties.
Oh no.
Yeah. Anyways, I am ready to start the stream, and we're going live in 5 seconds.
Okay.
And you're live.
Welcome back, everybody, to this incredible event, the 24 Hours of Le Mans. We are in the final stint then, as the stream should be back up and running. And let's have a look through where everybody is. There's a lot of changes since the early part of the race, exactly as you would expect. Yuri Kasdorp continues to lead the way. He's clocked up a lot of hours in that particular car. In car number 21, Niki Jakovic presses on after having some pressure on that second place for a while in car number 1. So he comes through the Porsche curves. Nico Barkley still not too far behind him. Even at this very late stage, those two are still in pretty short battles for the podium position. Jack Keithley in car 25 starts another lap. It's a lap down from the lead 3, but that's in endurance racing is not a huge amount. Adam Hodgkinson in 5th position, just coming through the Porsche curves himself, heading into the final turns. And Pavelas Nikinaus. What a great shame for what was the leading Nissan quite comfortably when I clocked off yesterday. And it has gone horribly wrong for them since then. Dowie Tapper finds himself at the back of the P1 field after a huge crash just before the stream had to restart, and found himself in the wall and in a great deal of trouble. He's been in the pits now for a while, and he's going to be there for a while. Joachim Stensnes, apologies if I'm not pronouncing that quite right, leads the P2 field in car 32. Finds himself rather much on his own. Tobias Polasek is rather caught out there in a three-way battle with the P1 Nissan and Alec Baldwin in car 64. So as he now comes on to the Hanadier, we have Shane Burke in 2nd position as well, but some way behind Polasek. Daniel Pisa, again a fairly lonely race for them at the moment. Dan Kell coming through the Dunlop curves in the pink and black car. Andrew Ford presses on. We have Tonga Guardia again finds himself 4 laps down from Andrew Ford, so their race hasn't unwound as well as they would have liked, but that is the nature of the beast. And Maximilian Scheider just coming through the first chicane on the Hanadier. And the field is relatively spread out, par a few names, again as you would expect for a race of this type. That's William Gores just coming into the 2nd chicane on the Hanadier. Martin Dyland leads the GT field. In the Corvettes, we have Vladan Sofasenik. Apologies for again not getting that quite right. In the Vires Ferrari, Kevin Yeager chases him in the Aston Martin. Slightly different laps, so the Aston is a lap down from the Ferrari, but they press on nonetheless. Junviet in the next Corvette gets out of William Gores' way. That's in 20th. Marius Nicolai in the Ferrari car 67 continues to rack up the laps, and Adam Baldwin rounds out the field. 22 cars remain. There's been quite a few retirements in the race, but it is the hardest race in any racing calendar, so retirements are of course expected. But that is the field as they currently stand. The closest battle position wise is Djakovic and Barkley in second and third, so even at this late stage we still have a potential battle. And speaking of which, Djakovic just come in and it's going to hand second over to Barkley.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Handing the second place over in the overall. Djokovic coming into the pit lane, and I believe you, Chris, have also an interview for us. And it's not going to be just any interview, but it's going to be a Dennis Lind interview. Sorry for spoiling.
Welcome back to the commentary box, Dennis. We had you in the box early on in this particular event. So, how are things shaping up for your team at the moment?
On a whole, it looks really well. I haven't checked in Division 2 yet, but I think we're currently leading with all our cars. So it's been quite successful so far.
Oh.
Yes, we are still leading. In Division 2, the car is currently leading with 2 laps over P2, and yeah, we have around a minute in GTE in Division 1 and just under a lap in LMP2, so it's looking really well. I mean, especially for LMP2, we started out our second hour being 2 laps down from the lead, and now we're pulling a bit of a gap, so yeah, so far so good. And welcome back to you as well, Chris. How was your sleep?
Oh, well, thank you. I did actually have another commentary in between when I clocked off yesterday and now, so the sleep was very welcome indeed. So, my mic is generating a bit of noise. Apologies for that. Now, when I spoke to you yesterday, we kind of touched upon having to adjust your strategies on the fly, or more to do with how your strategy is affected by the decisions of others. How has your kind of overall strategy? I mean, I'm guessing you had a broad idea of when you were going to pit who was going to come into the pits. Who was going to get into the car and when. How overall do you think your strategies have panned out from where we were when we spoke yesterday to where we are now?
I can't complain. To be honest, I would say that we are still following our initial strategy ever since stint 1, and basically it's quite simple. Like, we have full driver rotation, so every driver does 3 stints on one set of tires. Next driver comes in, does the same. So we always have one guy sleeping and 2 guys sort of keeping each other awake. So right now Joachim is keeping himself awake with his other personality, and I'm here talking to you.
Great stuff, great stuff. Any questions on your side, Yassine?
Well, you've been driving for over 18 hours now. You got a little bit under 6 hours remaining. Does, at this stage, even with your experience, at this stage of the race, do you start to feel a little bit like, okay, we're at the final stretch now? Do you start to lose concentration in the morning?
I would say you tend to focus a bit harder, so everything is a bit more tough. The consistency is dropping a little bit as well as we move towards the end, but I think we're just trying to be a bit more cautious around everything, because yeah, it is the final hours, so everybody's getting tired, and I think it's very, very crucial at this stage that if you want to push for laps, you cannot really make them lap record breaking stuff, because you simply don't have the tools in your head at the disposal anymore as you had in the start of the race when you were fresh and all that. Even if you've had a 2 or 3 hours sleep, it's nowhere near enough. Your brain is working really, really hard to process all the things that you are sort of receiving through this race, and doing stints and managing the traffic and keeping an eye out for tires and fuel, and all these things, they sort of add up in your head, and it's quite tiring. So it's very important always to, staying hydrated is very, very key in this case. And I've run out of coffee and drinks, so yeah, I'm gonna probably run to the grocery store soon and get some more of this stuff.
Absolutely, it's great to get some caffeine into your system and get those, and not dehydrate yourself out too much. It's important to keep the energy levels up. And another quick question before we let you go, just the question of physical endurance and sim racing. How important do you consider physical endurance and your fitness levels to be in terms of sim racing?
It's always important to keep a very high fitness level, because it's just, your body just works better when you're fit. It's just ready for more. When you get used to tiring your body through fitness, you basically prepare your body to get tired through anything. So it's always important to do that, because you also train your mind to sort of get used to these feelings. So yeah, I would say fitness is quite important. And as well, in Denmark right now we have insanely high temperatures, and no one in Denmark has air conditioning. So my room is around 32 degrees right now, so it's a bit hot. I've turned on all my fans everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're actually, like, we've been in a dry season in Denmark for around 3 weeks, and I think it's right now it's like 25, 26 outside temperature, so it's pretty nice weather to stay inside and play video games.
I sympathise with you. My office here is pretty toasty as well, but we won't delay you from getting the necessary supplies you need. Thank you for spending the time with us again, and good luck for the remainder of the race.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Thanks for having me, Ocean. We'll see you later.
See you again. Yeah, whilst Dennis was talking to us, Joachim Stensis was in the pits for a pretty short stint. Douwe Tapper is still in the pits. He's been in there for quite a few laps now. Nico Barkley from second has come in as well, so that'll drop him back into the clutches of Niki Jakovic as well. So it is still going on there, even at this late stage. Whilst the field may well be spread out position-wise, it's still a lot for these drivers to have to deal with. And exactly as you asked there, Ossie, and it's dealing with the tiredness, the fatigue is so crucial for these drivers.
It is, and also not only in terms of mental fatigue, that you've been awake for a long time here. You've had maybe 1 or 2 hours of sleep. We talked about earlier how it's difficult to actually sleep during an endurance race because your mind is still racing, no pun intended. Your mind is still just, your heart is beating, your mind is racing, the adrenaline levels are up. But also in terms of physical fatigue, as we touched on there earlier, endurance levels, we know that fitness levels on not all of the sim racers perhaps have the same fitness levels as professional racing car drivers, so that's something you're gonna see come into play here as well. So even though it might look like smooth sailing for Valet Sim Sport and the other class leaders, that might not be the case.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have other things to say about it. Also, there was a driver change on the P1 Nissan. Car 22 is now in the hands of Nathaniel Lupsam. So they've done another driver change. He's looking to try and press on to close down the gap their car finds himself in. That's got to be hard. You know, these guys have been in the car. Their cars have been running a very, very long time. You know, everything is just beginning to work that little bit slower. The responses are slower. Everything is just getting more difficult. And still, I mean, take for instance, car 22, that racing Nissan finds itself three laps down from the leader. It's got to be difficult just to kind of maintain the composure. Think, no, I can't push too hard. I must kind of keep my own race going. It's something that we spoke to a few drivers about yesterday, of just keeping your mental discipline there, which is even harder when the mind is just that worn out.
It is. It absolutely is, and especially for that number 22 car who were running really well yesterday. We remember they were leading this race, They had an okay-ish night, but an absolutely dreadful of a morning. They had tragedy after tragedy, mistake after mistake, you know, getting the car into the walls, getting penalties after penalties, and just losing a couple of laps to the leaders in the span of something like maybe 20 minutes. So they had an absolute black moment here. And now getting their consistency up, and especially Nathaniel Lapson, who was involved in a lot of those penalties, had a dreadful early morning. Now he's gonna get back into the car, and he's gonna drive for a full stint, potentially a couple of stints, and then it's gonna be Jimmy Broadbent taking over, we heard, for the last couple of hours. So it's gonna be difficult for him, but it's just one of those things, Chris, which separate average drivers from good ones, is the ability to keep your head together, to keep your concentration levels up, and to keep focusing on the task at hand, even though you've been going through some terrible things.
Indeed, car 14 is finally out the pits. They've been in there for well over 20 minutes really. So and also a driver change for them. James Johnson now pilots the white car 14, and Martin Dylan in car 60 in the Corvette. He's decided to come in. So the leader of the GT class is now in for a fairly regular stop. We would see no obvious damage to that car, so standard stop for him. That's it's going to bring Sofianek Vladan. I struggled with his name yesterday. I suspect I'm going to struggle with it again. So the Vires Ferrari will catch up with Martin Dallin, of course, when he's in the pits. So I mean, again, battling with the with trying to catch up is one thing, but it's just trying to maintain everything as well, still hitting your mark, still keeping the pace you need to keep. I don't envy. I do and I don't envy these guys. I mean, some people think that commentating this long is hard. I just sit here and shout at a mic. I'm not having to navigate so many different things. I'm not having to hit various apexes, keep the breaking point when the brain just wants to shut down. So I admire these guys. A lot of people may kind of think, oh, it's a game, inverted commas. And yes, that is the medium through which we race, but it does not take away the actual the exactly as Dennis Lind explained. You still need the physical fitness. You still need the mental the mental strength to go through all of these factors.
You do. And as a fat ex-smoker, who has done 24-hour endurance racing, I can tell that, well, not in real life, but here in games, and have been talking to not only Dennis Lind recently, but also a couple of other guys in Finland who have done real-life racing and endurance racing as well, who just said that, you know, in simulation, of course it's simulation, you're doing it through a computer, but a lot of things are similar, and especially keeping your concentration levels up at this, when you're fatigued, when you haven't had good sleep, when you haven't had the schedule, the rhythm that you're normally used to, you know. A lot of people have to, I know, Chris, I have my morning schedule that is usually visit the bathroom, put the coffee on, have some breakfast and go, and then, you know, just wake up early so you can get your mind into the things before you start getting to work. In this case, you might have to wake up a little bit late. You maybe have 15 minutes or half an hour to prepare before you go back into the car, because you need at least those 3 hours of sleep that you can maybe get. So it's another factor to consider, but it's just so many things that go on beyond what we can see, and I'm telling everybody that is saying that, oh, it's easy, they're playing a video game for a very long time, so they're basically nerds. Well, I'll go ahead and try it.
Yeah. That is exactly it. Is the doubters, and let's face it, there are doubters and haters in every camp in every sport. But yeah, exactly that. You give it a try and see how well you do with it. And those that have tried it don't need to give it the words. They know how hard it is. And those that haven't, well, they rather give themselves away by criticizing it. So that is exactly it. I know full well I could not do it. No way. I mean, I love what I do here in the commentary box. I could not be a driver in You think?
Yeah. It's, well, when you say there's difficult things to consider, there's so many factors to consider, but in the end, it's not rocket science. When you don't put too much thought into it. Yes, you need to practice a lot, but once you practice a lot, you get confidence. And in the end, you got teammates for you, helping you without. There's strategy, there's mental fatigue, there's physical fatigue, but in the end, it's also driving a car. And that's something, even though it's difficult due to a lot of these factors, it's not something that's impossible for anyone, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think if you could give it a shot, perhaps you could do it. But then again, we love you in the commentary, so that's a double-edged sword.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm pretty confident I know where my talent lies, and it's far better used behind the microphone than it is behind the wheel. So on that, I will leave the hard stuff to the professionals. But yeah, absolutely. Anyone that is new to endurance racing or has a love for this kind of racing, I would always implore to try it. I mean, don't necessarily, if you haven't done an endurance race before, don't necessarily look to try and do a 24-hour race straight out of the box. That may not go very well for you, but don't be afraid to try it. And that's one of the beauties of sim racing, is there is a wide array of different leagues, different styles. Again, here at the VEC, there's so many different places that you can just give it a try, and well, you're not having to pick up the bill for the repair if you stick the car on the wall, so there's less consequence in that respect. So absolutely, the world of sim racing. Oops, as Tobias Polaschek trips over somebody in the pits there. That wouldn't be too bad. There's been there will be Frederica Suave that's just taken over the 40 car. That's a great way to start his stint. Just as he gets in the car, he then has a bit of a nudge on someone coming in the pits. It's a little bit unfortunate.
That is a little bit of something that you don't want to necessarily have when you get in the car. You get in the rhythm. You're like, okay, let's just get in the car. Let's get back in there. No, it's not gonna be as difficult as your first stint in an endurance race. When it's gonna be a little bit careful until you get into the rhythm of things, into the beat of things, so to speak. But it's not something you necessarily want for your confidence and for your already training mental levels to have a little bit of a tap.
No, it's not the greatest way to start your stint off. Exactly as you say, you're getting back in the car. You've got to think, right, you forward plan exactly what you're going to do. Every driver, they run through the lap, they run through the crucial elements in their mind, and suddenly they have that kind of mental preparation disturbed by just accidentally tapping someone at the bits. But I don't think Suave is going to notice that too badly.
No, I don't think he is. And guess what? Let's get hyped, because in about 6 minutes' time, we have, Chris, I believe, another track reveal.
Yes, track 5 of Season 11 will be revealed within the next few minutes, so stick with us. We've had some great tracks announced, and some surprising tracks announced as well for next season, so stick with us. I mean, we would hope that you would stick with us for the remainder of the racing, of course, but of course, for those looking to take part in Season 11, round number 5 will be revealed very, very soon.
It will be, and let me just tell you, without spoiling anything, it's gonna be a bit of a surprise, I believe, for some. So, of course, we already know that, so be jealous if you want to be jealous, but so, yeah, anyway, it's gonna be a bit of a surprise for the guys, but I think it has a lot of potential as well. And these endurance races in general, I like that VEC is bravely trying out stuff that perhaps not every league is trying. Everyone and their mother is racing Spa and Le Mans and Nürburgring and Sebring and Daytona road course. But when you get a little bit of surprising venues, then that can perhaps be something that throws people off the charts and perhaps also creates a little bit of variety.
Absolutely. Exactly as you say, there are those that are stalwarts to any racing series. Le Mans, prime example. Indianapolis, Sepang. These are races that have been done many, many times over, and have a lot of familiarity. There's a lot of knowledge you can bring to the car before you've even turned a lap with some of these places. But then you have some rather interesting. NOLA as announced as round 2 for 6 hours. That was a big surprising one that doesn't have the same level of familiarity. And so the next one, exactly as you say, is a bit of an interesting one. So that's going to throw a few people off, I think. Again, not wanting to spoil the surprise too early. People might know this track for a slightly different reason, but we'll see what the general consensus is when that one is revealed.
Indeed so, and it's something that a lot of the newer generation may not be aware of necessarily
Good
as
point.
a circuit. So they might be just a little bit, thinking that, what is this place, and of course some of the older guys, perhaps more experienced guys, I should say, to be nice, I should say, they are gonna be like, oh, it's that one, I haven't seen that one in a while. But anyway, let's not spoil too much about it before we go to the track reveal. Just a quick point I would like to make. Is that we saw the lap times getting a little bit quicker earlier in the race. Then they got a little bit stagnated, and right now, last time by in a GNS Endurance car, number 22 car, Nathaniel Lobson, who we told had difficulties early in the morning, just did a 3:22.3, which is 1 second off their fastest lap. So, Chris, I would say that is a pretty good sign that they have got solved whatever is wrong with that Nissan.
Well, yes, absolutely. Earlier in the race, we saw Jimmy Broadbent really putting some impressive times in. Actually, Lutsan is side by side with Guardia there. That was slightly awkward. But again, King-Kodiak is in the LMP2 category, so didn't have to get out of the way. Just would have held Nathaniel up a bit, but he may well have decided that now's the time to start to push. If he feels he's got the confidence, really, he's got the concentration to do it, then why not? He's got a lot of clear track ahead of him. Obviously, we've lost quite a few competitors since the race began, so there's less traffic to have to deal with, and it was very, very busy in the early part of the race. So now Nathaniel can really start to open the taps, and Jimmy Broadbent really highlighted just how quick that Nissan is. So we will see if we'll see if he's able to close in the gap then. And we have got a new addition to the commentary box. I'm glad to say it is the person that babysat me yesterday. It's Joshua Anderson.
Hey! Except you'll be the one who babysits me for a bit, Chris, because I literally just woke up an half an hour ago. So, yeah, you'll have to keep us on track for them. But don't worry, I'll be fine in a bit. Just gotta get the old coffee in the system, and then, we'll be back to normal, and then you'll have Peak Anderson once again. Well, there's been a lot going on since I've been asleep. All sorts of calamities and catastrophes have happened, as I'm sure you'll be have been aware through watching it. Obviously, problems with the 22, but the Vela Sim Sport been leading for a while. But I actually come bearing good news, and that good news is another track reveal for season 11.
Indeed, and I believe have we been given the green light to reveal it?
Yeah, I think we have. I think the well, maybe not, but
Go.
Oh, right. So he's saying go, not no. Right.
Yeah, I read that wrong as well. Sorry about that.
This is why I need to be kept in check. Right. Okay. So we have 4 rounds revealed already. We have the 1,000 miles of Indianapolis, the 6 hours New Orleans at NOLA Motorsports Park, the 6 hours of Sao Paulo, and the 8 hours of Sepang already revealed. And we can now reveal that now we are going to reveal the 5th round of the championship. And that 5th round of the championship is going to be very, very Portuguese, because it's Estoril.
There it is, Estoril indeed. Something known to, exactly as Ossian was highlighting, known to a older generation of Formula 1 fan. I certainly recognise it from that particular type of racing. So that's going to be quite interesting for VEC to see how well that one is taken. As Dan Kell comes in from the P2 category in car 44. He's coming in for a schedule stop.
Yeah, Kellen now, and this will be scheduled, of course, for Magenta Warriors, and they come in now, and I have to say, you guys must have been running a really good race while I've been away, because we're on 314 laps, and that is awfully close to the projections that I've been seeing for breaking the 400 mark. You've been doing quite well here, and given there's still 330 minutes left in this race, I'd imagine we're going to get there.
Well, certainly looking at the pace that the front runners are doing, that's anything is certainly possible. as Yuri Kasdorp continues to lead the way by a clear lap. He was in the car when I clocked off yesterday, so he's racked up quite a few miles in the 21 car as he just comes past one of the Ferraris. Djakovic in second, still in car number 1. Got some closing down to do if he wants to challenge for the top spot, but on they go. And Osvaldo Angiglioni on the back straight, then chasing down one of the Corvettes in the 3rd spot. So the field may well be spread out quite a bit position-wise, but still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I just run the numbers again. We're on for 408 if all goes well, and yeah, and it's going to be an interesting one to see if we can, because we only did 398 last year, so if we can do 10 more, then we'll be renaming Studio 397 very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as you say, assuming, of course, these guys don't have any further troubles. Of course, exactly as you mentioned, car 22, from the lead of the race, suffered quite a lot of trouble, which is a great shame, but it does go to show that even the greats can make mistakes. It's just a shame that they had a lot to deal with in a very short period of time.
Yeah, of course, losing the front bumper and then the splitter and then having the problems that they had overnight has really put them back in the order, and well, it kind of is going to be the one that gets away from them again in this case, Le Mans, but ultimately, you know, they're still fighting on and they're still going to get a decent result out of this, and there's still a good chance they can crack the top 5, so hope should not be lost yet, even though they are running a little bit behind the cars ahead of them. You know, it's still theirs to potentially make up again.
Absolutely, and Nathaniel Lipson was trying to really push on. He's got caught out behind one of the Ferraris through the Dunlop curves, but he was really trying to press on earlier to start to reel in some of the gap, but 3 laps to try and close down on a field, you know, Hodgkinson, Keithley, Antonioni, Djakovic and Kasdorp, that's going to be a very big ask. James Johnson, of course, further 4 laps down after that huge accident they had. Literally, I feel like a commentator cursed them a bit, because I'd been in the seat about 5 minutes and suddenly they'd lost their nose after bouncing off of the wall at Indianapolis. So, yep, I can apologise for them. I had barely said a few words and suddenly they're in the wall.
Yeah, well, Indianapolis is a corner to lose it anyway. If you're going to lose it there. We've seen loads of teams and drivers go off there. Knight of Alex is P2. Most notably as well, they went off big style and had a massive crash there, and yet they've come back to lead LMP2 by almost a full lap now. So there really is, I did say to them, there really is always hope for you, and then they've got the rise on P1 and they've got it back. So they are absolutely on fire at the moment, and with the last few hours of this race, I'm sure they're going to continue to try and keep that lead and pull off this remarkable comeback.
Absolutely. It comes back down to exactly what we've been talking a fair bit about this morning, is the discipline, but also the mental strength to continue after being in the car for so many hours, and not necessarily in a straight stint, but these guys have been going since, well, I mean, it kind of depends on when they started their preparations yesterday. Of course, the green flag was at 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, as our race leader, Yuri Kasdorp, car 21, comes in for a scheduled stop. Is he going to hand over to anybody? Possibly. So we'll see if he retains that particular car. But of course, these guys have been driving for a number of hours over the last 24 hours. So it depends how much they've got left in the tank. And you'll get to a point where the drivers are just kind of staring at the clock, willing it to go by. But a lot of these guys are very, very highly experienced as well. They'll know what's ahead of them.
Yeah, at this point, I'd imagine I see Christian Michel waiting about. He'll probably be waiting to get in the Velosim Sport car there, given he is one of the Velos drivers. But yeah, I imagine he'll get in. But this is really the hardest bit, ultimately, coming out of this, which is, the end of the graveyard shift, really, because all the drivers have been, doing a few hours, and everyone's going to be getting a bit tired by this point, and they don't really... some of them don't have the luxury of being able to go to sleep from 10 o'clock to blooming 8 o'clock in the morning like I did, but ultimately, Yuri Kasdorp, he's been doing a fantastic job overnight and during his stint as well, and Christian Michel probably about to take that car over. Andrew Ford in the pits as well for Seawolf Net Race Motorsport, and they're quite a ways behind Knight of Alex in terms of the lead, but they've always been an impressive team and are continuing to be now.
Yep, and Andrew Ford then gets that car back underway, exactly as you call there, Joshua. Christian Michel has taken over the lead car 21. And it's a point I made yesterday, and it's kind of exasperated now after many hours of driving, that if you're taking over a good position, let alone the lead position car, you have got that pressure to maintain that, maintain the pace, maintain the gap. It's so easy with fatigue, no matter what position you're in, to just throw it into the wall, exactly as we saw with James Johnson's car earlier on. But it's so much easier to just make that mistake, that one momentary lapse of concentration. But when you've just taken over the car, you've wiped the sleep from your eyes, you've had that little power nap, and away you go. But you've got the weight of the team on your shoulders when you're maintaining the lead.
Yeah, you have, and it can be pressure really for anyone who's not used to it. And King-Kodiak in the pits now, and I imagine this will be Kieran Parkin coming in. I see him about as well. So Kieran is going to get himself into the car, and we'll see what he can do in the early hours of this morning of the 24 hours of Le Mans here. And well, it's just coming up to the point where there are about 5 hours to go. I think at the moment we have 5 hours and 20 minutes. So Kieran Parkin will be in that car for part of that. I don't imagine he'll be taking the car till the end, but he will definitely be taking the car for a significant portion of that. Max Scheider is coming in as well for Doug Henson Racing, though I don't see anyone who's going to change. He can, so he is going to stay in, and there will be a change in the Atlantic LMP2.
Indeed. There's King-Kodiak there. Oh wow, that was a really short stop for Scheider. He's already back underway. Wants to try and keep the momentum going. And that again is another factor. When you're tired, the adrenaline just keeps you going. It's a crucial part of keeping the concentration, keeping you awake if nothing else. But when you stop, when you're sat still, that adrenaline level is going to kind of fall off a little bit. As indeed Kieran Parkin takes over the car 32. We saw a lot of battling with him yesterday. So he comes back, he is right out in the middle of Palaschek that is ahead of him, and there goes, I think it's Jakovic. It is indeed, that's just gone past him as well, so that would have woken him up, and nothing else coming out right in between a pair of P1s.
Yeah, that'll give him something to think about and something to wake up to. But yeah, Kieran's a good driver, we know this, and he'll be ready for his stint. He won't go into this stint without being ready for it. So, he's going to be absolutely 100%, and he'll be chasing down the cars ahead, trying to gain some time. To Scheider as well, there is a fair bit of time to gain. As it stands, about 19-20 seconds to get to Scheider before he can get this position made. And obviously, with the longer stop they had as well, with him changing drivers, that is kind of scuppered any chances of him taking it right now. But with the way Parkin goes, I reckon in a short while, if he can keep at his best, he might be there.
Indeed, and we saw really what he was made of yesterday, with really trying to get that early distances between himself and his competitors, and how much he had to fight for it. So yeah, we've seen how good he is. A lot of these drivers have got a lot of past history, a lot of reputations already on the board, so they don't have to necessarily justify who they are or how good they are. But you really want to test how good a driver you are. This is definitely the avenue in which to do it.
Yeah, I mean, 24 hours is a difficult struggle for any team, and I should know, I competed in a 24 hours myself once, and disaster struck at 4 a.m. when I was asleep. So, it can strike at any time, and usually it strikes at the worst. But, as a team, it really is a test of your morale and skills as well. How well you can come together as a team, how well you can just keep it going and keep struggling on regardless of what goes wrong. And ultimately, everyone that's managed to keep going can pat themselves on the back for making it this far in the 24 hours of Le Mans. I mean, look at the amount of cars we've lost. We've lost Olivier Fortin because of running out of fuel, and we've lost Pedro Delgado for similar reasons, and engine failures for Alessandro Pozzi and Carlo Luciano Bedin as well. And then Ballas Varro, Simon Pirard, Osvaldo Cocosa, Rudy De Vit, Heiko Kalvenbach, Pedro Delgado, Jos Baccio, and Ahmet Demirkado went out as well. That's a fairly large attrition list. Only 22 cars still running in this Le Mans.
Yeah, indeed. I was just looking at that myself. 6 GTEs and 7 LMP1s. So LMP2s has the healthiest representation at the moment. But yeah, started with 34. We lost one very early on with Ahmet I'm struggling with names again. Demirakin struggling, falling by the wayside very early. When I left, he was the only one to have retired, so it was quite a few. I was also looking at Wojciech Pelesny as well. He'd literally just taken over the car as I left yesterday. I've commentated on him elsewhere, so I was keen to see how he did. Sadly, an accident at lap 205 has taken that car out of the race. William Gores has come in for the LMP2 category, so he's handing it over. No, he's not handing over to anybody, so a schedule stop for them at the tail of the P2 field. So hopefully he'll be able to get back underway soon and start to close in. But of course that's what he's been trying to do for a while, and the next guy he's chasing is Kyron Parkin, so I don't envy him that task.
Yeah, Parkin, I think he's a whole lap behind Parkin as well, so Kieran has really got a healthy lead at the moment. Tobias Politek is chasing him, and Politek, in and amongst all this, is coming out to lap him actually, but I don't imagine Kieran will make it too hard for him. But if he can stay ahead, he can stay ahead. But Politek has been catching at a rate of knots recently, and that Monaco car in general has been very, very impressive throughout this whole race, and especially so now that they're only a lap down on the leaders, Knight of Velux. They are going to finish a very respectable P2 here.
Now, we were talking to Dennis Lind earlier on the performance of their car. He was very happy with how their team has done in car 30, but also their leading class as well in the Division 2, so their preparations have gone brilliantly well. I also asked how their strategy panned out from their initial plan to how it now stands, and again they've had to make very alterations, and that's exactly what you want as a team. You want to be able to stick to the plan and reap the results whilst capitalising on other people's mistakes, and that's how their team has done. So they've had a great time here and stand very well to take the class win at this point in time. They still lead Polasek by a full lap, and they're obviously looking to continue that momentum, but as mentioned, they're doing well in Division 2, so their preparations have gone very, very well indeed.
They have done as well, and Knight of Alex on to win the GT category, and amongst all this at the moment obviously came in with a healthy lead and leading now, so probably going to come out as GT champions. We already know Monaco are the LMP2 champions, that much is confirmed since 3 wide. The only other team that could have challenged them, with the exception of Simtech, pretty much the champions at this point. Simtech Motorsport and amongst all this, obviously Shane Burke at the wheel of that car at the moment, but they are not outscoring Monaco. So they are pretty much the champions at this point. The Monaco team, the number 37 in LMP2. In LMP1, it's looking like it's going to be Team Virus, since they are second and they need 4th or higher to secure it. Ramada car of Jack Keithley is actually in the pits now in 4th place, so they're going to get beaten on points either way. And Vela Simsport, despite winning, are not in a scenario where both teams behind them are not scoring, so it's looking like the number 1 will retain the championship.
Indeed, but no driver wants to rely on the results of others. They'll press on nonetheless. They don't want to think, oh, okay, we've got this in the bag, and then let off, because that's when mistakes will happen, and they may well find themselves in the barrier. Adam Hodgkinson is pressing on. He's quite a way behind Jack Keithley, so I don't think Jack's going to be losing that position at the moment. And indeed, out he comes. So pretty quick stop then for the 4th place runner, car number 25, and out he comes then, unchallenged.
It does come out unchallenged indeed, and I'm actually seeing, in and amongst all this, the 73 Ajira car has already DNF'd, Osvaldo Kokoza out of contention. So that, I think that was the only Ajira car that could have challenged as well for the championship, and with Satellite Racing as far behind as they are now, Adam Baldwin 52 laps down overall, and Adam Terzic 44. Unless something disastrous happens, I reckon the 60 takes the GT championship as well, and that is pretty much confirmed at this point too. So the only one still in play is the LMP1 championship, and even then it's not by much.
No, but again, racing drivers are hardwired to continue to press on. They may well feel that But it also depends how much of that they've been looking at. They may well just think, never mind what anyone else is doing, let's just press on and get the best result we possibly can for the team. Let's not rely on others. Some people do. Some people keep an eye on their competitors and think, okay, we're pretty comfortable, let's not push too hard, let's not do anything silly. But most racing drivers just want to press on and do the best they can. If nothing else, then for their own kind of, just to see how well they can do in these circumstances.
Yeah, everyone's going to give it their all until the end. It's not like anyone's given up already. They're always going to try and get to the end, always going to give it 100% until the very end of the race. I don't imagine anyone is going to give up. But just the performance, really, of that car, that Night of Alex number 60 all season, has been nothing short of impressive. It really has been one of the cars of the season, and, rightfully deserved to do in the title.
Indeed. So, Christian Michel comes onto the Nadia once more. And by this stage, they've gone through the night, they've gone through the hardest part of the race. At least they haven't got rain to contend with. That rain or fog, that really does make for very hard Le Mans racing.
Not yet, at least.
Well, not yet. Yep, absolutely true. Still a number of hours to do. And that's the thing, they're into the kind of final quarter of the race. It's so easy to lose focus, but as Dennis was explaining, this is when they try and focus that little bit more because of how long they've been running for, and they know how easy it is for that all-crucial concentration to start to wane. This is when they try and focus that little bit more to maintain that momentum, press on, make up any gaps they possibly can. So some people, other drivers relish in these kind of conditions. Some people will wilt and falter. So this is when we're really going to start to see the good from the great.
Yeah, it's at this point really where we really start to see who can shine in the later hours of this race. I mean, Michelle and the Vela Sport car, what a comeback story this has been. Started at the back of everybody after the problems that they had in the formation lap, but yet have still come round to lead by almost a full lap now. I mean, that's not a story of determination, nothing else is. I mean, all the teams are determined, obviously, but, to come back from that setback straight away and then come back to possibly win Le Mans is nothing short of brilliant.
Yeah, every driver dreams of the last to first kind of comebacks, as King-Kodiak comes in from second position. So that car number 1 will have a fairly standard, pretty short stop, I would think. But yeah, absolutely, every driver kind of has the dream of, they all dream of winning, but when you win in difficult circumstances, such as having to start from the back of the field, and it was Yuri, wasn't it, that was that started the start of the race for them. So Yuri Kasdorp, he had to work his way through the field and no one was giving him any space. Of course, they didn't have to. So he was something like 30 or 40 seconds, I think, off the back of the pack before he was even able to start seeing P1. So yeah, it was a difficult start for that particular car. Car number 1, Jakovic, comes back out again, not losing position. Although that does bring Osvaldo Angiolioni fairly close to him, so we might start seeing a battle then for second position between car 1 and car 17.
Yeah, indeed, we may start seeing a battle between those two cars, between the 1 and the 17, if Angiolioni can catch up. And funny enough, this would be the challenge, the same second place that Team Virus got last year on their way to the World Championship in LMP1. They were second at Le Mans last year to seal it, and they're looking to be second this year, although Angiolioni is chasing them down. And unbelievably as well, this would be Velas retaining the LMP1 win as well, because they won it last year with Alexei Cavella, Yuri Kasdorp, Christian Michel at the wheel. I think the lineup's slightly different this time, but the same win on the line.
There it is. It's always kind of nice. Well, I say it's nice, but when you've got a bit of a history that's repeating, you know how the battle went last time. Let's see what we can do this time around. And Osvaldo really has been pushing hard to close in that gap. That gap was. You got to think. I mean, this is nearly 320 laps that they have done, and they're only 6 seconds apart at this stage. That's very, very impressive, especially as we've already mentioned, the amount of people that are watching the race on the garage now because their cars haven't made the distance, and they're only a few seconds apart. That's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, very impressive indeed. And as Michelle rows on towards the win, you know, you have the likes of Angeloni who are constantly chasing down and threatening the likes of Djakovic, and you know, on board we go with Osvaldo Angeloni as he comes through now into the Mulsanne corner. You'll see just how fast he's taking it, and he's chasing down Hodgkinson first, then Djakovic, and if anyone's going to do it, I think Osvaldo's the one for it. You know, very talented in open wheelers as well, single seaters, and well, his talent in those is absolutely undeniable. These closed wheel cockpits are LMPs are very similar to open wheel cars in the way you drive them, so Osvaldo is not going to struggle with, you know, adapting to these. He has always been good in prototypes, and throughout his tenure in the VC, he's always been one of the most impressive drivers, and I think if he's going to catch Djakovic, he's the one to do it.
He's certainly looking to prove that particular statement now, as Djakovic has made his way past Karen Parkhead in the P2. As Angelione is looking to close that gap down. He's got Adam Hodgkinson in the way as well. So still a bit of work for Osvaldo to do before he can start challenging for that second position. But yeah, you're just watching the lines he's taking, watching how he's attacking the apexes. I think Djakovic may be a little bit kind of rougher around the edges. I saw him bounce off the apex just before Indianapolis, and which is exactly what we're not seeing from Angelione. I think Osvaldo's been in the car less time than Djakovic, certainly in this stint, is true. So unfortunately, he was in the car when I came into the box, so I don't know how long Djakovic has been in the car for this time around. But Djakovic was in the car when I clocked off yesterday, so a lot of these guys have clocked up a lot of hours. So if Angelione is a bit fresher to the steering wheel, then he may well be able to use that kind of that fresh brain, so to speak, that less fatigue to his advantage. And then we've just been caught out there behind the Ferrari of Alec Baldwin. So through he goes without too much delay, and Nathaniel Lupson is in as well in the 22 Nissan. So he's been pressing on to try and make up some gaps, but also against the kind of field of drivers ahead of him, that's going to be very difficult for anybody to make up any time.
Yeah, it is. It is going to be very difficult to make up any time whatsoever in that sort of circumstances. And hey, well, Chris, I've got a question for you.
Fire away.
Do you think it's Tonga time? I think it's Tonga time because we have Tonga with us. Well, we'll be in about 5 seconds when I can drag him up. We do indeed have Tonga Guardia joining us from the Atlantic LMP2 Squadron. Welcome to the broadcast, Tonga, indeed. Great to have you with us. Kieran Parkin at the wheel of that car at the moment, of course. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for you guys. Obviously, suffering problems overnight, but you're still fighting on regardless of the circumstances.
Okay, first of all, hi all. You guys are doing an amazing job streaming all race through. And yes, we have a tough race with some incidents. Lazarus had a freeze and jumped in another car, which cost us 10 minutes repair. But after that, all went good, and we are just keep going, trying to recover some positions.
Yeah, of course, it's just about that recovery drive at the moment after the problems you faced overnight. But you're doing a very good job of it, trying to chase down the likes of Max Scheider in the Doug Henson racing car, and later, Andrew Ford's about 3 laps ahead in the Seawolf Net race car. But, it's still going, you're still going, and, you're not giving up. And Kieran at the moment isn't giving up either, just 13 seconds down on Scheider, so at the very least you might get P7.
Yeah, it's still 5 hours to go, and we have a lot of times, and much things can happen till the end of the race. She either puts me in a difficult position because I need to push it hard just to catch him first, and then to maintain the gap because I was in for a new set of tires, and he was on a used tire, so I just cut about 15 seconds, almost 20 seconds, and then when he put new tires, I took him 20 seconds, which I could maintain till the end of my stints. So now Kairan are fresh because he has some sleeps a few hours, which I don't. I really need a sleep and a shower. And so Kairan and April will manage the end of the race for us.
Yeah, Parkin and Carlsbad, a very proven combination, though yourself, you have done quite well as well, Tonga, throughout this race as well. I don't know whether Chris has any questions to ask the most name-punnable Atlantic driver of them all.
Yeah, I do have a question actually there, Tonga, but it's something that we've mentioned in the broadcast a few times about when you're really tired, when the fatigue is there, and you find yourself, you guys have got a bit of time to make up to try and get further up the P2 field. How difficult is it just to kind of keep yourself settled and just keep doing what you're doing, despite the fact that you want to try and close down the gap in front of you, but you're trying to just also run your own race? How difficult is it just to kind of keep everything settled and maintain your own race?
Well, Schieder helps me with that because he won't left me alone in the track, so I have some fight. But yeah, it's really difficult when you are tired. Sometimes the food doesn't respond to our mind, to your mind, and you are slow with the reactions with your wheel, so you turn 1/10 length and you probably go wide and get one cut and two cuts and three cuts and then a penalization, a penalty. So it's difficult because the body can't resist a 24 hours race. I am awake since almost the beginning of the race. I joined the guys in the third or fourth hour, and my last stint was I did 5 stints, which is a little more than 3 hours. So it's pretty tough, but it's amazing to drive these cars, to drive at Le Mans, to have such a talented and field of drivers of any class. So you need to be alert all the time. And this is awesome, this is awesome. Sim race is awesome, so I enjoy too much the time on the track.
That's great to hear. Well, we won't delay you for your important shower and sleep, so thank you for joining us in the box, and we wish you luck for the remaining hours of the race.
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you for your all work on the broadcast. And thanks Jimmy and all the Sim Racing Club's staff for this amazing series, this amazing organization. Alright, time to take a break until next season starts. And now, time to take a shower because I'm stink too much.
I think a rightfully deserved one as well for you. Thank you very much for joining, Stongar, and pleasure to have you with us. And well, good luck for the rest of the race as well.
Thank you.
And speaking of the rest of the race, we can introduce our race director from Division 3. It's Nick Newcomb again. This broadcast got a little more Jody once more. What's the crack in D3 then, Nick?
Oh my goodness me, I've just finished my first morning cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal because, you got to have some breakfast, haven't you, really?
Absolutely.
I did before I came on.
Yeah. I just heard you talking to Tonga there about driving through the night, and what do you do? I did a six stints and came out the car somewhere around 8:30, I think it was. Somewhere like that, 8:15 or something like that. And I was going on muscle memory, basically. And it was much fun. I used to work at Nissan down the road, so you know what it's like there. You were just like, it was like working at Tenko, so you knew what was going on.
Yeah, you would know what's going on. It's just getting on with it, isn't it, ultimately? But what's happening in D3 then? What's happening? Who's where? Any major incidents to report?
Well, everybody's had a go at leading the race, to be fair. When I last spoke to you, it was Pushrod that were in the lead early last night. Then Feeder were in the lead, and unfortunately they had a problem and lost 4 laps. They've actually gained a lap back on third place Pushrod. SimHQ was sitting in second place at the minute, and Deltec with Sansano at the helm is leading the P1 field. Back in P2, Spear was Reborn Racers. Having a great race, and it looks like if everything stays the way it is, they're the champions for the P2 and Division 3. The main fight is at the minute between Spain Racing Factor and our good team Satellite Racing, who are sitting second and third. We've both just come out the pits. We're on alternate strategies. We've just had a driver swap, no tyres, and so it's just it's a straight fight basically between Spain Racing Factor and Satellite for second and third. Unfortunately, Frank Godrecki was having a great run, and then I think a little bit of the fatigue set in. He had a couple of offs, unfortunately, and sustained quite a considerable amount of damage, and that's put him out of the picture at the minute. He's 4 laps down in 4th place in the P2. In GT, we've got another change for the lead. PT Sims.net Racing are in the lead at the minute with Carlos Santos. Sherwin Van der Sloot is sitting second, same lap with Simtech Motorsports. In IDM are just a further lap back in 3rd place. World of Sim Racing is in 4th, just hitting the pits. So it's all close, and it's we're doing quite well.
Yeah, indeed, doing quite well in Division 3 indeed. It was a shame to hear about, of course, Godrecki's off as well, being the driver there, and obviously, you know, Frank Godrecki, a very capable driver in his own right, but ultimately not quite having the way of the world that he wanted, and having that off as well. So, you know, it's just like anyone can go off though. You know, when it gets to that hour of the race, anyone could go off, and quite frankly, I don't blame people for having maybe a couple of excursions, because you know it is difficult at night, isn't it? As you've just alluded to.
At the beginning of the stint, it was myself, Godrecki, Sarah from Spain Racing Factor. We're basically swapping places, depending on what pit strategy. So I kept changing it around, and it was really, really good. So. Yeah. That's up to date at the minute, and I've been listening to your stream as well, and great interview there with Tonga, and it's just keep it going, guys. The pictures look great, and the broadcast, you're sounding great as well. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us as well, Nick. Pleasure to have you with us, and of course, good luck race directing the rest of D3. And well, batten down the hatches, ladies and gentlemen. Fasten your seat belts. There's a Jimmy Broadbent back in the channel with us. Welcome back into the stream, Jimmy. It just seems like you guys can't catch a break at Le Mans, can you?
I mean, like, we're just doing the GNS race. It's our strap.
This is just classic race, yeah.
We start well and we fuck it. I mean, we start well.
I'm going after hearing that. It's too early in the morning. It's Sunday, Jimmy.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning, and he's already channeling his inner Trevelyan Johnson.
I'm normally getting first communion by now. Right, I'm away. See it.
Yeah, well, thank you, Nick. But yeah, just can't seem to catch a break, unfortunately. Now 3 laps down after losing the splitter, but you're still going. That's the thing. You're still going.
Yeah, it's still going strong. We've got to try and somehow get the lap back on DHR now. The thing is, they put this guy in the car. I don't know if you've heard of him. The old boiler. Stephen Bailey's in the car at the moment, so probably not going to get that lap back anytime soon. But if Nate is pretty much eternally in my servitude now, because he's been cutting all night. I'm a very angry team boss.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously things going wrong overnight. But you're still going. You're still trying to jig it out at Le Mans. Obviously, trying to go for the 6th place. If not get the 5th, go for the 6th. There, you're 4 laps ahead of the car behind. So I imagine you'll probably manage to get that as well. And it's been a bit of an up and down season for you guys, hasn't it? You know, it's not been good at times. But you have managed to get some good results.
Yeah, of course, we had our win at Turkey. with a fairly VOP car, completely fairly VOP car, of course. And yeah, I mean that's the highlight really. We've had some good results. We've always had some pace. The fact is, it's been very difficult for the guys doing the VOP on this car because every time we were BOP, we found something else in the setup that would give us another half a second or something. You know, because this car's so backwards. You know, and we've been just discovering it every race, and every time we made a discovery, we then had to, of course, take the hit from BOP. So it's got to the point now where the car is handling so well for us that we're actually now slower in a straight line than the other P1s on a straight round here, which is hilarious to think about that given how the Nissan is. But yeah, a very interesting thing for the admins to try and deal with.
Yeah, it is interesting trying to keep on top of the balance of performance for Shia. I mean, for a car that is rightly so backwards, you know, it ultimately just it just works that you find something and then you find that it's been balanced. Now I guess it's one of the best handling cars rather than the fastest cars in the straight line. You know, it's a completely different strategy, and at Le Mans I guess that doesn't help when you need straight line speed. But ultimately, it's been an interesting experience for you, surely, driving such a unique car as the Nissan throughout the whole season, because you could have gone from the outset, you could have gone with a more sensible car like the Porsche, the Audi, or even the Rebellion, but you chose the Nissan.
Yeah, I mean, we could have done any of those things, and I think despite what you get a lot of talk, unfortunately, regarding your car choice, and we 100% picked the car for the memes, as you'd say. But yeah, we'll pick the Nissan, it'll be rubbish, but we'll have fun with it. And it turned out to be better than we thought it would be, of course. And I mean, bear in mind that we're the only team to take it this season. I think it's just a lot about how difficult it is to get used to it. But we stuck with it, and I think we've done it proud, even though, you know, I mean, in real life it's terrible. Here it's doing slightly less terrible, so that's an improvement, right?
It's actually running, that much is for certain. But yeah, I don't know if Chris has any questions for our dedicated meme lord.
Just a quick one, really. Talking about the car and how it's set up. How have you found kind of setting it up and tweaking and what have you for your range of drivers? It's something we talked about yesterday in the stream of where a setup that works for yourself may not necessarily work, or almost certainly won't work in the exact entirety for another one of your drivers. What have you had to kind of compromise for this car to suit the team as a whole?
I think the right answer would be me to say that we listen to our drivers carefully and considerably. But what we say is, if we find a fast setup, we go get used to it. Basically, get out there and get used to it. We've gone from a car that would oversteer massively on the first couple of laps on the brakes, so you'd actually try and drift it to go fast, which is, I think, shows the quality of the mod. To a car where it was so tight at the front end that you'd end up having to basically have a complete point squirt machine. I'm making so many euphemisms right here, I don't mean to. But yeah, pretty much anyone outside the team who's driven the car is like, no, we don't like this, we're going to get out of it now, because it's far different from the car you get at the start. It's completely different now. I mean, a good way of putting it into context is that last season, when we had Magenta, they were struggling the entire season until we gave them a setup, and then they magically found 2 or 3 seconds a lap. That's pretty much what it's like now, with how extreme the setup is on this car.
So basically, you can make setups and they can't.
No, I can't. Joe could.
Yeah,
Joe and Nick could.
Joe and Nick can, but yeah, ultimately, I guess set up with a car of this nature is always going to be, a bit of an interesting factor. But obviously, you made it work for you, and you're doing all right in the end. 6th place, not where you want to be, of course, but you're doing all right in the end, and that's all you can ask for. Thanks for joining us, Jimmy. Pleasure to have you as always, and let's see if you can't make up a little bit more time before the end of this 24.
No worries, and we'd like to apologise for Jimmy Broadbent's language on the stream. Bye!
Hey, dearie me, what are we going to do with them? Honestly, what are we going to do with them?
Well, an established character like that, I fear there is absolutely nothing you can do except for just live with it. But that's who he is, isn't it? It's we wouldn't really change him for the world.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't, would we? No, not really.
Oh, I think it would be fairly pointless trying.
It would be pointless trying, yes. But yeah, either which way, they are going to be fighting on towards the end of this race now. maybe try and get a little bit of that one lap back. As he rightfully says, though, Stephen Bailey in the car, and when Bailey's in the car, it's a well-established fact that not much position ever changes because he's an absolute machine.
Absolutely. We saw a lot of that yesterday with the incredible times that Bailey was able to put in. We've had another driver change though in the NP2 field. Conlon Blamey now in car 46 is lap down from. Okay, he's just vanished. That's slightly unfortunate. Oh no, there he is. Bit of lag there.
Back.
Now, one thing I did notice was whilst we were talking to Mr. Broadbent was that Dan Kell and Federico Suave, I think it was, were in a right old battle before. Dan Kell then came into the pits, so that battle was very short-lived. But when Federica comes in, we could have a battle there for what would be 4th position in the NP2s. So we're starting to see battles start to creep back in again. And this is again fairly true of any kind of racing. You'll have a period of time where the actual on-track battles peter out for a while whilst the strategies are played out, and then towards the end the battles start to re-emerge again. So I think we might start to see some battles, actual on-track battles for positions start to creep in again.
Yeah, indeed, and well, Christian Michel is just on fire at the moment. He's doing 321s consistently at this point, pretty much. He's just absolutely hammering those laps in. He wants this victory for Vela Simpson. He wants to make it 2 in a row. And a team that perhaps aren't going to make it 2 in a row are Doug Henson Racing in that number 3. And we're joined by Adam Hodgkinson from that squad. Adam, great to have you with us. Stephen in the car at the moment, doing what he does best, which is just driving like an absolute unit. But he's doing brilliant at the moment. Just keeping it consistent, trying to catch up to Keithley in the Ramada car.
He's doing what Bailey does best. He loves them all. I'm almost going to say he loves his car. I don't quite think that's true, but yeah, he's always brilliant. Man.
I mean, you can only drive an Audi at Le Mans so many times before it becomes a bit tedious. But yeah, the Le Mans specialist is Bailey. Obviously, former full-time driver, now turned part-time driver. Just for Le Mans, you wheel him out. But he certainly does a good job of it.
Yeah, it doesn't take him long to sort of shake off his rusty spots whenever he gets back in. And he just, I think it took him maybe a day or two to get into the groove.
Yeah, it just doesn't take him that long generally, and now he's out there racing it against the likes of Keithley and Lupson, and well, it's been an up and down race for you guys as well. You've had your ups, you've had your downs. Obviously, you've had a couple of incidents, but nothing really of major note, and that's why you've managed to keep so consistent and keep only within 2 laps of Michelle and the Vela Simsport team.
Yeah, while I've been away, I can't really remember anything of massive thing. I got a speeding penalty for being a bit of an idiot this morning. Other than that, we've had one longer stop because James needed to nip to the loo, but that cost us altogether we probably lost 30-40 seconds if that, so it wouldn't have made a huge difference. But other than that, we've just been going around. We've not been, our strategy is basically we just have everything from last year. We haven't done anything different, and it probably tells us our tyre wear is for me is a bit high, so we're the shorter stints we have is quite nice, but the final stint is a bit of a struggle to begin with. So,
of course, because you're starting on worn tyres to begin with, and obviously that we mentioned this before, the shorter stints from the start of the race. You were taking those 10 laps instead of 12 or 13 lap stints, and it was always going to end slightly differently, but obviously ultimately it seems to have worked all right. You're P5 at the moment and charging on. I don't know whether Chris has any questions.
Not that you haven't already covered.
Well, that's a first.
That is a first, actually, yeah.
I mean, I would ask, while you're here, obviously, Doug Henson Racing, this year, obviously, Season 9, you had 2 LMP1 squadrons, and this year you seem to have downsized a little to a P2 and a P1. Obviously, maybe owing to people who want to drive the P1 not being available, but I imagine you'll be going on a recruitment drive for next season to find potential P1 drivers?
I have no idea. It's not my baby.
Of course, but you would like more P1 drivers, wouldn't you? You would like to go back up personally to 2 P1 outfits again.
Well, next year will be completely different anyway. So who knows? I mean, obviously, vehicles be different from what I know. So you don't. I don't know. I don't know people's availability. I mean, Ethan is. We've been lucky most of the times he's catching because he's still in school in America. So he's been writing essays whilst not driving today and yesterday. So it's a case of we've been sort of good with timing with that. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen sort of next year in terms of what we have.
Yeah, he's been writing essays when he's not driving and writing short reports when he has been. He's been a busy lad, hasn't he? But yeah, great stuff indeed. Thank you very much, Adam, for joining us. Pleasure to have you, and good luck for DHR for the rest of the race.
Thank you. Enjoy.
I'm sure we will. And yeah, it's always a nice car to watch, that number 3. It really just works as an automobile, no matter who's in it.
Indeed. Whilst we were talking to them, Parkin actually managed to overhaul Scheider in the pits. So Parkin really has, since he's got into that car, he has absolutely floored him. He's got a massive gap to make up to Conor Blaney now. So, but the way he's moving, if anyone in front of him has a problem, he's really beginning to shift.
He has been, yeah, he's been really moving as Kieran Parkin, as he always seems to be able to do in such circumstances. I've raced against him a lot, actually, and he is just genuinely one of the most dedicated drivers you'll find. He's brilliantly quick. He loves to be on it 100%. He knows his stuff, and he is just absolutely great when it comes to these cars. Of course, a former Doug Henson Racing driver himself is Parkin, actually. He used to drive for the LMP1 squadron, and I think it was about season 8, season 9 he was an LMP1 driver for them, obviously moving down to LMP2 for Atlantic now. But it just seems whatever car he gets in, he seems to be able to make it work.
It's a sign of a very, very good driver indeed, and that must feel a bit strange. I mean, you go from the mighty LMP1s to I mean, the LMP2s are still very, very quick, so are the GTEs, but when you're going down a step and there's no getting away from that, that must feel quite strange. That must take a little bit of getting used to, but if the car suits you, then you'll do well in it, and Parkin is certainly proving that.
Yeah, of course, because the LMP2s are completely different machinery as well. You know, they have similar sort of straight line speed. It's the acceleration really that gets them. It's, of course, all the cars in this class, Orica 05 chassis, Nissan 4 and a bit litre engines, revving up to about 8,500 RPM. You know, it's the same car for everybody, and similar sort of straight line speeds to the P1s, as we rightly say, but it's just the cornering really. There's less downforce and a bit more weight to them, and they don't accelerate as quick. So that is going to be, there's going to be less aerodynamic grip. Mechanical grip is going to be similar, of course, but there's less aerodynamic grip in the high-speed corners, so it's, I guess it's not quite the same as well, because they're rear-wheel drive, they're not four-wheel drive, so they're a completely different experience. But if you can get used to them, they're a very good stepping stone into LMP1, and well, I guess vice versa.
Well, indeed. Whether Kieran Parkin actually voluntarily went down a step to LMP2, or that was a case of that's what the team is running, is well, only he will know that. But either way, he really is getting the best out of the car. And you look at the gap between himself and Massimilian Scheider. Now, of course, a lot of that is down to the pit stop. Parkin came out a good 15 seconds before Scheider, but now he's really, I'm just amazed that he is absolutely flooring it, considering again how long he's been in that car for. Not necessarily this stint, but how many miles he's already racked up there. And of course, not forgetting our race leader, our race leader, Christy Michel, nearly has got, he's not too far off of putting a lap on the only man on the lead lap with him, Niki Djakovic as well. And that gap has been getting bigger and bigger and bigger, slowly but surely, lap on lap on lap. So his pace has just been absolutely, well, very literally untouchable.
Yeah, and he comes into the pits now, so that gap is going to decrease a bit, but is very close indeed to putting a lap on everyone. And really, I think the only thing they need to do now is get this second win in a row, because they won last year, they're going for the win this year. Djakovic, of course, Team Virus don't need to go for the win. A second place that they have now will steal the championship for them and make sure they are number one for another year in season 11. So they are number one in season 11. That's a lot of ones for them. But yeah, Djakovic, Taylor, Manasakis, who competed early in the season, and now Al Sapti, who joins them from Murata Motorsport, is really been the dominant team all season. You can't say much more than that. They have really run away with it, and well, it may only be a three-man team, but you can't say even though there's been, controversy at times surrounding them, you can't say that, you don't fluke 2 championships. These guys are seriously good.
And as we said earlier, they started from the back of the field, and it doesn't matter how you spin that one. That's very, very impressive. Now, of course, your initial starting position is less crucial in an endurance race, but you still got to think that Kasdorp, as we said earlier, he had to work his way through the field and found himself at a 40-second disadvantage. No matter how long your race is, you don't want that to start your race with. You don't want to have to start a recovery from the flag. So it's just a simple case of they've just knuckled down and got on with the job brilliantly well. And look at the names that we've lost. You can't say that they're bad drivers either. So there's just been a case of getting the best out of the machinery and doing the best job overall. So hats off to them.
Hats off to Velis, indeed. I mean, I said from the start of this broadcast, they were going to have it out for them, starting with that big disadvantage, but they've made it work, and they come back with flying colours, indeed. And yes, Team Virus are going to win the war, but this battle will belong to Team Velis Simsport, and that's going to give them big motivation going into Season 11, and that's what's important.
Absolutely so. And sort of talking about recruitment drives as well, if you've got a team that is very, very efficient and getting the results, they may not have had the greatest luck through the season, but you're still going to get very big names, very talented drivers coming to you if you've got very effective proven history, and that's exactly what this team has done.
Yeah, Velis Simsport have been around for a while, ever since a few seasons ago. At least I joined. Then they underwent a bit of a rebrand into Velis as we know them today, and they've always had good drivers, the likes of Christian Michel and that. So they've always been a great outfit, and they are going to ultimately beat Virus when it matters here. At Le Mans, they're going to be pretty much saying to them, look, yeah, you won the war, okay, you won the championship, but we can win where it counts at Le Mans. That is going to sting for them.
Yep, absolutely it is. And you always, the championship is always the grand, the grand prize. But it's also a lot of these things is down to momentum. I mean, again, look at how many times in the racing series where a champion is crowned before the final race of the season, but suddenly the momentum has switched over to their teammate. Say, their teammate has won the last race of the previous season, and then just carries on going through as the season continues. Nothing to say you won't see the same in season 11.
Quite so, indeed. I mean, obviously, we've got lots of potential changes coming up that we don't know about. But speaking of changes, we have a change for position potentially, and it's for last, unbelievably. It's Marius Nikolai versus Matt Strand, the two GTs going at it right now. Both Ferrari 458s. It is Satellite versus Atlantic here. This is just the battle for the wooden spoon ultimately, or to avoid the wooden spoon, that is. But it's still the battle, and it is still very close. Only a few tenths in it. Nikolai looking right now to try and get through, and Jack Keithley having gotten through in the Ramada car. Nikolai just cannot seem to overhaul Strand in terms of outright pace here on the straights. He's going to have to hope for something here to get a little bit of an edge.
That 67 really had to back out of that in the middle of the chicane, as we're starting to see other people come into the pits as well. So, yeah, Marius Nikolai is now beginning to get the bit between the seats and start to press on. Of course, they are, 7 laps down from Daniel Almeida as well. So it is just, essentially, as you say, just avoiding the wooden spoon. But they'll enjoy. And that's the thing with racing drivers, is that if they can't battle for the top honours, they will thoroughly enjoy battling for whatever they can get, and they will really enjoy the fact that they're going to be really pressing on and battling to, albeit for last place, they won't care. They will battle as much as they would for a win. As we have a driver change in car 41, Terry Adheden has taken that one over because they are trailing the LMP2 field at the moment, and also another name jumping in the car is Nicholas Hill.
Wide from Nikolai on the entrance into Indianapolis there. That was really pushing it to the limit there. And as you rightly say then, Chris, if they cannot battle for the win, this is just about fighting now between, this is Matt and Marius just trying to battle each other to see who can overtake the other. This is nothing about anything else now. This is just purely about beating each other.
It's it's just a one-on-one duel. They really don't care what anyone else is doing now. They know where they stand in the field. I mean, to be fair, they've already beaten quite a number of prestigious names already by still being running. Oh, and again, Nikolai really does look like he's got the grip and the pace in his Ferrari that Matt Strand, again, just looking how he's coming through the Porsche curves. That car doesn't look settled at all. Maybe the grip just isn't there. Maybe just the focus isn't quite there for Matt Strand. The car just does not look as planted as Marius Nikolai's car does. So he's working very, very hard to try and keep him behind. And sometimes that's not what you want. When your eyeballs are about to fall out of your head because you're so tired, this might not necessarily be what you want. But the adrenaline will kick in anyway. And again, Nikolai looking on the inside of the Ford chicane. It just seems like any moment now that 67 is going to overhaul the 64.
Yeah, the 64 not looking to be overhauled, but here comes Nikolai down the inside now, and he can't again. It's just the momentum the 64 has. Nikolai's being forced to the wrong line all the time, but there he goes. Strand makes the slip up, goes to the outside contact between the two. Blue flags helping with that, as here comes the Atlantic prototype through now, and it looks like Nikolai's gotten through for now at least. So Marius Nikolai gets in out of last.
Yeah, that was he was looking to get the inside line for that second apex, and that's exactly what he did. He went for an outside maneuver for the first part of the through Dunlop curve. He wanted the inside line for the second part of the Dunlop chicane, which is exactly what he's done. Now we're really going to see whether he has got that extra pace in that car as Matt Strand looks on. He's staying in the slipstream though. He's beginning to... Oh wow, he's really closing back in on Nikolai very, very quickly. He's going to blast past him before they get to the first chicane.
That's less swing for you, and the slipstream. That's why Nikolai couldn't catch up on the straight then. They must have more downforce on that Ferrari, which is why they're better in the fast corners and under braking. But Strand, obviously, in that satellite car with less wing, even when Nikolai is the draft, has a slight advantage.
Yeah, wow, he really proved that very well. And that could also be why Strand will be aware that he doesn't have to defend too hard, knowing the difference in their two cars. He's obviously just proven the fact that they are much slipperier in the straight, so Strand doesn't have to do anything silly. Again, you can see Nikolai just looking out on the inside. Strand knows he's not going to try and move there. It's a little bit too far back as well. So what Strand will have to do, he's going to have to work hard when they come back around through the Porsche curbs and through back onto Tetra Rouge. That's where Strand will have to work to keep Nikolai behind him. And again, it could be why Strand was really struggling to keep that car straight. He hasn't got the downforce that Marius Nikolai does. So that's why his car was getting a little bit out of kilter through those curves. And that's also where he's working the hardest to try and keep car 67 behind him.
Yeah, just trying to keep him behind him at this point and really just going for it. And we saw how hard it was for Marius to get through anyway, but yeah, it's going to be even more difficult this time because Matt Strand has the advantage in the straight line and he's got to do the hard work all over again. Yeah, and also, Strand had a good exit through Mulsanne. Got Jack Keithley coming up behind them as well. So just got to duck out of the way. That's race leader as well. Coming up, I believe. No, beg your pardon, wrong car. That's catching up to them. Oops! It's Keithley in this contact. He's just trying to get his way through here. Needs to get through, of course, but the GTs just have to hold the line. It's his responsibility to make sure he gets through safely. Yeah, that didn't go quite as well as Nikolai would have liked, but that's actually put Matt Strand a little bit out of... he didn't get a good run through Arnage, but with that lower downforce, he's managed to get back on the loud pedal in time to keep Nikolai behind him. But yeah, that didn't go quite as well as Nikolai would like. Maybe a few words said about that one, but I don't think there was any major impact there, so there won't be any particular damage done. As they get... didn't see who that was catching up, but it was Scheider coming up behind them. So another car they'll have to bear in mind of. Oh, Scheider's... Oh, wow, Scheider's brave. He's going for an outside move through the Corvette curves. So if you've got the grip and the confidence in your car, I guess why not? Yeah, why not, I guess, if you got the confidence. And, well, Jakovic and all this as well wants through. Nicky Jakovic is going to have to wait until after the Ford Chicken. He's coming into the pits. That's why he was waiting. So the Virus car in now. This will give Michelle and Co the chance to get that lap in on them. But, yeah, Strand and Nikolai now. Looks like Marius Nikolai's got a very good exit. This is the thing. He gets a great exit out of the Ford Chicanes. Gets a slight run on Strand into the first chicane, and this is exactly how he got to the first time. He went to the inside and then forced him to the outside. Now, surely Matt Strand's going to be wise to it this time, and I think he's let him through.
he either let him through or he for some reason just didn't feel the confidence to try and defend that. But again, Matt Strand knows how much quicker he is in a straight line. I would imagine there's an element of letting through. I'll catch up with him later. There is Federico Suave coming into the middle of that particular battle in car 40. He will carry on and mind his own business, but I would expect Strand to close that gap right back in again. Just needs a decent run through Tetra Rouge, which he's got, and exactly as we saw last lap, the pace difference he had through here was absolutely astounding, and Nikolai needed that draft to actually keep up with Strand last time, which of course is exactly what Nikolai doesn't have. Matt Strand is closing in. Is he closing in quick enough?
I don't think he is.
No.
I think the gap's too big, and he'll have to try for the second or third attempt here down the Mulsanne straight. Of course, broken up by the two chicanes. This is the second go now. After this one will be the third into Mulsanne corner itself. I imagine they'll have it done by then, to be honest. He is catching up at a rate that suggests to me he might try it into the Mulsanne corner, if not the second chicane. In fact, going on the straight now, it probably will be Mulsanne corner, or maybe even Indianapolis.
Yeah, I think it's actually... Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit later, because that's where Nikolai's can carry just a little bit more pace. Here comes Matt Strand again, closing in, not quite there before the second chicane, but this is where obviously Marius Nikolai can carry a little bit more kilometers an hour through there due to the extra wings. But now the straight's not particularly long down to Mulsanne. It's enough to bring Matt Strand back into it. I think it's probably going to be Indianapolis where he might make a move. He might choose to do it next lap. You know, he's in no particular hurry. Of course, as we said, they're 7 laps down from the next competitor, and wow, Nikolai felt the need to defend the inside line. But Matt Strand couldn't quite get the pace he needed to overhaul Nikolai that time around. Fairly slow corner through Mulsanne, so Nikolai can't use that downforce advantage through there. And I would highly expect Matt Strand to come past before they get to Indianapolis. Let's see.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see if Strand can get it through this time. And, well, he's chasing him down. He has the speed difference. We know he's getting closer now. This might be as close as he's going to get. Nikolai moves to the right. He has to. The Strand is just that much quicker. He's going to have to get him on the brakes, and he doesn't. So Nikolai, I think, is going to hold it through Indianapolis at the very minimum. He's not going to get through the Porsche goes or the Fudge again. I think his realest chance now is possibly into the hairpin in the first turn again.
Yep. Now, just before the braking zone, I was looking at the speed between the two, and Matt Strand was about 12 kilometers an hour at least quicker than Nikolai before they slammed on the brakes. So, yeah, again, it comes back to the downforce difference. But Nikolai's doing a pretty good job of defending against Matt Strand. But how long is he going to do it for? Now, what Nikolai needs, he needs to maintain as much momentum as he can. Now is his best opportunity to get that distance up. Well, Matt Strand had a bit of an uncomfortable entrance into Porsche curves there. About 200 kilometers an hour on Matt Strand's car. And not actually a great deal of difference between the two at the moment. But Nikolai is able to hold just a much smoother line, so he's able to get back onto the gas that little bit earlier than Matt Strand, and that's what's helping him stay ahead at the moment. But I fear that gap's not big enough for... Oh, and he's coming anyway, so that completely... we won't see the result of that as Nikolai now comes in.
I'll tell you what we will see, though, another track reveal for Season 11, because the time is 9:30 and it's time for another track reveal.
Oh, yes, more for Season 11.
Yep, indeed, and, well, if you've missed any of the previous reveals so far, don't worry, we're going to recap them for you now. Round 1 of Season 11 will be the 1,000 miles of Indianapolis, making a return to the series. And then the second round, directly after that, in the November months, will be the 6 hours in New Orleans to be held at NOLA Motorsports Park. Then the third round at Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Interlagos on the 1st of December. Then on the 12th of January, it's the 8 hours of Sepang, and then the 6 hours of Estoril on the 8th of February, I believe. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, we can now reveal the 6th round of the championship, and it's going to be a classic. Literally, it's one of the oldest motor races in endurance racing history. It's the 12 Hours of Sebring.
Yeah, you can't have well, you could have a complete grid of new tracks, but it's good to have some classics in there. Sebring, exactly as you say, one of the oldest endurance races there are, probably alongside Le Mans. So yeah, a very big stalwart, very familiar track to many endurance fans.
Yeah, indeed. Anyone who knows their endurance is going to know Sebring, and it is a great track built on an airfield in the 1930s. It's come one of the classics of motor racing history, and well, you can't really realistically have an endurance racing season without it. I mean, you can, but it just wouldn't be the same. But yeah, Sebring, absolute classic, and it's going to be one of the premier rounds of this season. It's always throwing up a good race. It's a 12-hour race, half of a Le Mans, and ultimately, there you go, Sebring it is.
Yeah, that's going to be a favourite for a number of drivers.
As well as that, I think we're going to have a laser scan version too. So I think we've been using a modified track, but I think maybe coming as official content soon.
Excellent. It's always good to see the latest technology in generating that extra level of accuracy, extra level of attention to detail coming to these kind of endurance series. Yes, you can have a modded track, but when you've got an official content, in my opinion anyway, it adds that extra level of authenticity. If nothing else, it's less buggy if you want to break it down into real core elements. But it's great to see that these technologies are being employed in this manner.
Yeah, it is great to see that Sebring possibly going to make it that way, and yeah, it is a classic track, and I'm seeing already the reaction is positive, so that is definitely a good track announcement. So we have 6 rounds of the championship yet. So far it's Indianapolis, Nola, Sao Paulo, Sepang, Estoril, and then Sebring. We've still got 2 more track reveals to go though, so stay tuned for those, because they will be here before the end of this race.
Absolutely they will. Shane Burke is in the pits, 3rd position in the P2 class. We will see. And he's now underway. So new tyres on the car. And on he goes there to resume the rhythm in car 33. There's an interesting 3-way battle, so to speak, for 2nd in class in the P1s. Osvaldo Angelione is leading that particular pack. Adam Taylor is just coming into the Porsche curves. I'll say it's a 3-way battle as these 3 are on the same lap. So there is a fair amount of track between them, but comparatively not as much as elsewhere, although Jack Heatley is actually quite a way off the back of that. He's on the Mulsanne. On the Hernadier, just coming past the Aston. Federico Suave is also in from 4th in the P2 class. So still plenty of things going on. And coming back to the battle between Strand and Nikolai, because Nikolai came into the pits. Strand didn't, interestingly. So Matt Strand is looking to continue. Nikolai has got a lot of company as Lupsan comes past him in the 22 Nissan. They're still trying to do their best to make up some time. Actually, they're doing their best to make up some time, but the car they're trying to make up time on is right behind them and a lap ahead of them. So just about to put another lap on them to make their day even worse.
Yeah, that's going to hurt a bit, and yeah, they're going to get a lap put on them. That's not going to help. And speaking of laps put on them, by this point, the Velosim Sport car has now lapped everyone, so they're just going for the lap record at this point.
Why not? If you find yourself that much on your own, you need something to aim for. So yeah, why not? Get the focus, get the energy, get the adrenaline, and get the time in.
Yeah, I mean, gotta get the time in ultimately. I mean, they're going for the 408. Obviously, that's what I calculated before. I'll just do a quick reset of the later now, but. Yeah, obviously they've done 1,178 minutes and 334 laps as a result of that. So, realistically here, for a 40-minute race, if they continue at their current pace, it is looking, I'm trying to fill time here at this point. But, yeah, for a 40-minute race divided by the amount of minutes they've done now, which is 11:79, if you run the numbers with that, and then multiply by the laps they've done now, which is 334, they're still on for 408. It's 407.9. So right now, we are going to blitz the lap record. Yeah,
that's not even close, is it? That's quite a big I mean, you talk about that in forms of distance. What are we talking lap distance? About 13 miles, I think?
It's a long lap, yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to absolutely blitz the actual real life record, and we're going to force a name change to Studio 408.
That's a hell of a target to...
Are you watching, Marcel? You got to change the name now.
Yeah, I mean that is yeah, I'm really astounded actually that the record has been beaten to such a degree. I mean, that's a long way.
Yeah, it is a massive thing, and it just goes to show how good these sim racers are. Obviously, you know, they don't have quite the same amount of problems as real racing drivers, but, you know, these esports drivers, great people, and we're proving that in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at Chris and Michelle, he's just catching up to the back of, I think that's Scheide. It is indeed. So, slightly unlucky that caught him in the middle of the Ford curves. Oh, that's David Yunt in the Aston, just getting away as well. So another stop for them. He's got Daniel Almeida for company. Oh, actually, those two are going to be pretty close, 19th and 20th. As the Corvette has just come out of the curves. The Aston's just coming out of the pits. That's going to be quite close, actually.
Yeah, it is going to be quite close coming out of the pits here, and yeah, it is very closely knit indeed. And yeah, I see Angeloni actually going to go for Jordan in the sister car here, just going to try and get through.
Yeah, Angeloni is being held up a little bit there, but nothing he can do. He's got an Aston straight in front of him, and then Dennis Jordan, slightly further ahead. There he goes. He's going to come past the Aston Martin, and then get through Tetra Rouge. And that should be ample opportunity then to get past Jordan. Got a little bit held up there through the Dunlop chicane. And through he goes without too much trouble. And a flash of the lights there as thank you very much. But yeah, it's so easy. When coming back to what we were talking about before, when there's fatigue, one simple mistake. I mean, that could have I'll try that again. If Angeloni had just missed his braking point, he could have ploughed into at least two other cars. That would have been a rather dramatic way to bring their race to a complete stop, and they're second in class. So that adds to the pressure that these drivers have got to contend with after having been in the car for so many laps. 335 laps over the lap length this long is a very long way.
Yeah, very long way indeed if anything would happen now, and I imagine with the rhythm Angeloni's in now, it probably won't, to be honest with you. But yeah, he's doing a sterling job in that car and that one Aqua team. They're going to be very proud with this second place if they can get it. Of course, Team Virus will have something to say about that, trying to chase them down, but yeah, you know, I think anyone who can get to the end of a 24-hour race can be proud of themselves, because it is just absolutely... You know, it's so difficult, especially in machinery like this. The time I did it, it was in GT3 cars. So I can imagine how hard it's going to be driving a prototype, you know, in a team for 24 hours.
Absolutely. Exactly as the drivers that have very kindly given their time to come and talk to us, they're only getting a few hours sleep between their stints, 2 or 3 hours in some instances. And over a 24-hour period, that really does, the body's not used to that sort of... that's kind of punishment. The body wants to get 7 or 8 hours sleep and then be awake all day. Well, especially if you're then racing in the dark, your body clock is just completely turned upside down. And this is where, again, the kind of conditioning is really needed. The training, the practice for dealing with such conditions. That's when it really starts to pay off. If you're used to dealing with such things, then it's one of these things that will really help you in these circumstances.
Yeah, really going to help you. And, the body, as you rightly say, it's not meant to do 24-hour races. We are supposed to go to sleep at some point, and obviously the drivers have been. But, ultimately, this is really just the closing hours now for these guys. This is the bit where the morale is just going to be, trying to keep up. Like, come on, we've got this. We can do this. We're going to be on top of this. It's trying to... keep going towards the end now, and when you've got a lap record to aim for, I don't think the Villa Simsport guys have got any lack of motivation. One Aqua right there in case something goes wrong, although they have just come in the pits. And Adam Taylor, the Team Virus car, we keep forgetting, we keep giving this to Team Villa Simsport. We keep thinking this is a given that they're going to win. It's not. They could still have a massive crash and sustain 10 minutes of damage. Any of these teams that are a lap behind are still in contention of a win, should anything go wrong, although with consistency of Michelle & Co, it's not looking likely.
Absolutely, yeah. But like we said before, all it takes is one mistake, just one error. Especially, we saw it literally as I came into the commentary box earlier, where Johnson, he lost easily 15-20 minutes of the pits because that car was stuffed into the wall head first in Indianapolis. If Christian Michel has just the same momentary lapse of concentration, that lead is gone.
Yeah, one lapse and that's it. They've lost it. So it's important Michel keeps on top of himself and really, really pushes as hard as he can. And he's been dipping into the 321s at parts of this lap, but I think the fatigue's starting to kick in after that last pit stop because he's only been doing 323s and 324s. So even for someone as good as Michel, you can only go so long.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just been doing some maths to see how far these guys have actually driven. Now, I did this a lap ago, so 335 laps. Now, it's 8.4 miles, 13.6 kilometres, roughly, is one lap. So that's the equivalent of 2,836 miles. Now, bearing in mind that even from like London to Milan in Italy, that's not even 1,000 miles. You're kind of doing like London to like Hungary or Romania. That's a damn long way they've driven up to this point. They still have several hours to go.
Yeah, of course, and I'll give you the numbers that matter, of course, in and amongst all this. It's 5,410.7 kilometres. That was set in 2010. We already beat that last year. We're on to beat it this year, and the amount of distance these guys have covered is in fact immense. It's such a long track, and to get this far in 24 hours just crazy. And 317.475 is the fastest lap from actual Le Mans. And Michel hasn't quite gotten that far yet. He's only been doing 321s. But, these guys are quite quick nonetheless.
Yeah, indeed. So they're looking to have covered, nearly 6,000 miles in that 24-hour period. That's, that kind of puts you like from London to the middle of Africa somewhere. Yeah, if you were kind of doing that as the crow flies. Or, maybe to the, tip of Mexico or something. So that just kind of shows you how far that these guys are doing. Yes, okay, it's not one person, but one car has to do that distance no matter how many drivers are in it. So one mistake, one error, and just think of the amount of time that throws away. And that again, just all that adds to the pressure these guys are facing. Now, these drivers probably aren't thinking, if I make a mistake, I've thrown everything away. But it's still a case of, I'm in the lead, I can't relax at the moment. I'm not. If I was leading by 10 laps, yeah, sure, I would kind of just cruise around in fifth, maybe. But that's not the nature of these drivers, and the quality of the field. Still, anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can still occur in this race still, and with the quality of the drivers in the field, I'm not saying this is going to be a predictable end at all. But we'll have to wait and see how it does go ultimately. We're into the final closing hours of this race at this point. We are really hitting, peak times for drivers to really try and keep the morale up. This is going to be the toughest bit. The night was tough, but this is just getting to the end. When you have a finish line in sight, it can be very difficult sometimes to, concentrate on that. So, this is going to be difficult too.
Yep. It's coming back to what we said before about having that, having the strength, having the mental capacity to just keep on pushing, keep the concentration, keep the focus. And Dennis Lin said that this is when they time to focus more is in the closing stages, just to try and keep the car on the black stuff, just to try and keep the lap times. But it is so hard when the brain just wants to shut down. You feel like there's nothing left. You just got to dig deep, find that extra bit of focus, that extra bit of energy just to keep going. It's so different. It's so difficult to do. And again, just to kind of put into comparison how far these guys will have driven by the end. We're again looking at about 5,500 miles. That's literally as the crow flies from London to Mexico. If they would just go in a straight line across water, well, these things are quick enough to kind of do it. That's how far they would have driven, just to put it in context.
Yeah, is that London to Mexico via America or via Japan?
No, just as the crow flies, so without any cordons to deal with. So even still, damn long way.
Yeah, very, very long way. And, we may have a long way to go in this race, about 4 hours, but you know, we're still going, the drivers are still going. I'm sure Neil Heatley's still going as well. He joins us once again, still managing to keep relatively awake, I guess, having had a bit of a rest before, but yeah, obviously working into the slightly early morning and now joining us again. So, you know, 4 hours to go, Neil. This is VLMS, this is your territory now. This is VLMS distance.
Yes, VLMS distance, of course, the feeder series here to the VEC. It finished 6 weeks ago, I think it was, with a 6-hour race here at the moment. Yes, of course, in the qualifying session last Saturday, we revealed the brand new calendar for season 3 of the VLMS and the new cars that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the Engine Racers mod, the LMP2, LMP3, that new class, and the GTEs as well. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic season. Some interesting races as well. We've got our version of the Petit Le Mans, 1,000 miles at Road America. Road Atlanta even. We finished with 1,000 kilometers at Sebring. And we have these brand new 2-class only sprint races as well around Laguna Seca, around Virginia International Raceway, and around Long Beach. Those 3 races are going to be absolutely fantastic. But yes, we are coming into the final 4 hours here, and you say waking up slightly. I had a bit of a code red in the flat this morning because I realised I ran out of coffee. It was a terrible situation to be in.
Oh no, that's disastrous.
That is disastrous. I had to run out to the shops and buy more. Terrible.
You see, this is why I always bulk buy mine from Nespresso. I just get all the coffee I'll ever need for about a year, and then I've always got one on hand. You should learn from me.
No, instant coffee for me because, you know, student life.
No, splash out a bit, mate. It's not that expensive. Only about 23 pence a cup, actually, when you buy enough of it.
Or, I mean, you could kind of go intravenous caffeine if you're really hardcore.
Yeah, that's great. Dear me. Well, caffeine aside, it's certainly been an interesting race and possibly a caffeine-fueled race for Kieran Parkin as well in the Atlantic P2. He comes in, no driver change, though he's in that car a little bit longer, and Max Scheider in 2 as well in the other P2. And yeah, interesting thing happening now for sure, but, you know, Scheider having a good race, Parkin having a good race too.
Yeah, Parkin and Scheider were, you know, Parkin did overhaul Scheider in the pit stop, and now he is a full pit stop ahead. Of course, you know, by the short just fuel stop standard, but that just shows you how much he is pushing on. As a slight kind of tease to Kieran Parkin, he came into the pits right alongside Conlon Blamey, who is the person he's chasing. Of course, they're 3 laps apart. Just as Parkin parked up, Blamey then got underway. So it's a case of this is what you're chasing, essentially. So a little bit of extra motivation for Parkin, but I think to overhaul 3 laps with the remaining time is going to be a very big ask without some kind of major incident ahead of him.
Yeah, very, very interesting hours ahead for sure, and it's been a great race so far. I'm sure it'll continue to be a great race as well as we head into the final 4 of the 24 hours of Le Mans. We've done the 20 of Le Mans, but just 4 to go now, and well, it does not feel like 2 o'clock yesterday since it started. It feels like a few hours ago. It really does. And that's what I certainly would be disconcerting last night when I woke up and there was a race still going on. And it's weird. I've woken up to commentate on a 5-hour race after, you know, commentating on before. But in reality, there's been so much that I've missed overnight. And it's only thanks to our brilliant commentators such as Justin Sutton, Rhys Gardner, Josh Penny and Neil Heatley that we've been able to cover the night shift, as well as Oshin Bahaka as well. So, you know, thanks to all those guys as well that we recruited for Le Mans for covering these late stints, because, you know, without them we would not have covered the full race.
Indeed, and not forgetting our incredible race directors, and also for all divisions as well. As a lot of staff, a lot of planning goes into covering these events. So big hats off to those, and even, you know, some of the top brass at VEC are taking part in the event as well. So they've had a lot of work on their shoulders. But without them, this event couldn't take place. So big thank you to them. Always nice to give a shout out to those behind the scenes. Of course, our drivers are doing an incredible job in giving us the action to accommodate on. Sam McDonald has taken over that car from Scheider as well, so he now gets underway to try and chase down Kieran Parkin. But yeah, a lot of work, a lot of planning goes into these events, and it's been pretty good from our side, and hopefully our spectators have enjoyed the racing so far.
Hopefully you have enjoyed the racing. If you have, then please make sure to subscribe to the Virtual Endurance Championship YouTube channel. Of course, give the stream a like. Maybe even consider maybe a donation, because it all helps with server costs in the end. Of course, we're not making you by any means. Just if you're feeling super generous, if you may want to, or you know, that sort of thing. But yeah, go check out my Twitter feed as well. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and maybe even join the SimRacing.club community Discord server as well. All links are all in the description of this stream, and yeah, you can go check us out there and enjoy everything we have to offer as well. And well, in and amongst all this, you know, with thanking people, I would like to thank our Lord and Saviour Jimmy Allison as well, you know, race director and league organiser as well. Ultimately, without him, we would not be here. He's not paying us to say that, I promise.
Yeah, we weren't given that script, we promise. But no, again, the dedication of the big wigs here at VEC is absolutely incredible. The amount of time that they've dedicated to what you could argue is just people playing a game, racing around a track. Well, yes, you can break it down into that if you so choose to, but all of this requires dedication, organisation, many hours of devotion and time away from normal life to make these events happen for you guys as spectators' entertainment. It's certainly been entertaining for us in the commentary box, I can assure you. Well, it certainly has for me.
Yeah, I've been more than entertained. This has definitely been, out of all of the races I've ever commentated on here, and I've commentated on a fair few here in the Virtual Endurance Championship. I've been knocking about since the start of Season 8, in various capacities and various divisions, but, as being one of the full-time commentators for Division 1 this season, I think the first time it'd been the full-time D1 commentator as well. This has been, the best race I've ever commentated on by far. And I'm not just saying that because it's Le Mans, but it's been one of the cleanest and best races I've ever commentated on. I think during the course of the whole event, unless we had any overnight, we've only had one Code 80 for the entire 24 hours of Le Mans. That's impressive.
No, there's more during the night as well.
How many was there then? How many?
There was a couple when I was on with Justin Sutton, I believe, after you left, but I'm not sure if there's been anything since then.
Well, from what I've observed, it's been one of the cleanest races then, and, we're still on for the 408 lap record. That says something, even though we've had that many Code 80s.
It does say something. It just shows how fast these LMP1 cars are. It is quite impressive to see how they're able to keep up this pace so metronomically, and they have been able to for almost 20 hours now.
Yeah, your rhythm just kicks in at that point, I think, and they're just going for it as well. And I see Enzo Farzi's about as well. Hello, Enzo. Says he definitely feels like he's been partying like James Hunt, but he's ready to finish this thing. Yes, let's do it, Enzo. Maybe even join us for the last hour, as is your customary tradition.
Great stuff, great stuff. Right, at this point, I'm going to have a short break from the commentary box. I will be back in 1 hour's time to see the final three home. So I'll happily hand over to Neil and Joshua for this particular point, but I shall return for 11 o'clock British time to see the race through to the flag.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. You enjoy your break as well. You've more than ended, and we do hope to see you back in about an hour's time. And I'm sure Neil does as well. And it is going to be an interesting hour here